Hey guys, so in this video I wanted to give you guys a little recap of my competition block, which is basically what I call last block that you have going into your meets, what I'm planning on for my meets, and how I'm going to taper. So basically I worked up to about my second attempts on squat and deadlift this week, about 2 weeks out, and I did my basically what I'm going to do on my third attempt on my bench press. This is 545. You'll see that I had took this twice because my side spotter, God bless his heart, he was just trying to keep me safe. So I tend to tip over on my squat. It looks like I'm going to fail, but I'm just not. Just how I squat and I'm built. Took it again, so I was really happy with being able to do like 545 for two singles, actually having the second one move better. And the thing too about like actually having the right spacing between your competition attempts is that if you do it right, you should actually feel more and more potentiated and stronger for each attempt because of basically you're able to recruit more motor neurons. You're better coordinated. Your nervous system just gets more warmed up. And so squats feel very good right now. It's the best I've ever felt going into meet. I'm very happy with how depth has gotten. That's been a sticking point for me. What I really had to do is just really think of oversinking depth when I'm warming up, and then just really sitting into my knees on the squat. I'm really taking advantage of the compression of the knee sleeves. So squats feel great. I'm not concerned about that at all. I'll show you guys what I'm planning on in the next clip. But bench press has been feeling rather overworked. This was, I'm not gonna lie, I had a lot of nervousness and anxiety about how bench was feeling going into this meet, especially after this overall week of training. I really just knew, with the fact I've been benching 4 days a week with a lot of volume, I basically had a really good idea of like, well, this is most likely just fatigue, so I'm going to auto regulate what I'm doing on my sessions. And really, in this scenario like this, because I know that the adaptations that I'm most interested in, right, with mainly being peak intensity and strength, I need to basically maintain top end intensity as best as I possibly can. Obviously, auto regulating, but drop down that average intensity a little bit on my downsets, and have a slight volume reduction on my accessories, and whatnot to make sure I feel about strong. So that's basically what I did on bench. So one thing to really remind yourself of is that if a lift isn't going very well, um, squat and deadlift are pretty hard to turn around in a short period of time, but bench press you can turn around in a pretty brief period of time because it's just not as sensitive to fatigue or like reducing down the fatigue or anything like that. So, you know, I'll show you guys how the bench went later on the week, but deadlift felt really good. I moved 705 after this. That was 300 kilos. This is for 320. This is the best this has ever moved. I felt absolutely destroyed from doing too heavy squats, but again, your stimulus matters more than fatigue. Fatigue is just a byproduct of effective training. It happens. You deal with it. Most matters is the arrangement of your training. So deadlift just it feels really good. This is the best my deadlift has ever felt. I really have found my formula with sumo deadlifting once per week and then conventional deadlifting once a week. And apparently doing higher intensity sets per week is really what I need. Again, this is the weirdest deadlift approach. I do tons of high reps. I do heavy intensity. I train my deadlift kind of like a squat and my squat like a deadlift. And that just seems to really be what works well for me. And I don't really care how weird it is, just that's working. And then this is 415 for a set of seven this is like a build EPR. I've never been able to do this like an RPE 5 to 6. That felt really good. Was moving really well here. Really happy with how squats are just in general feeling. For my taper, what I'm planning on doing is I know that I'm the type of person where I only have about one good single per week. I'm just going to cut the single that I usually do on my main day, and I've been doing like a 4x5 on my main day. I'm just going to do a 3x4 and actually just lower down one set on my accessories. Keep intensity pretty high though. Keep training within the RP 5 to 7 range. Because I know that I'm going to be strongest if I do something like that on my squat. I have about one single per week on that, and last peak didn't go very well because we had a single earlier on. It was lower in intensity. I still felt beat up. This is a 639 conventional deadlift. The best is ever moved like about around RPE 6. And then this down set was really encouraging to me, like 530, the fastest it's ever moved. So deadlift just feels on point. My taper for deadlift is just not deadlifting for a week. I tend to hold a lot of fatigue on my deadlift. I'm a rather skilled deadlifter too. I don't need to take a lot of reps and whatnot to really feel good on deadlift. And I'm pretty good at retaining my technique. So I do a pretty large reduction on my deadlift, and most of that, I get a lot of peak out of just not doing anything. And then bench press, auto regulate, and really was able to come away with did basically my meet plan today, and got a lift off from my friend Tanner, which were amazing, and to give me them at my meet. 352 moved so good. I was like, I got 363 today, and so moved really, really, really well. Obviously, I think the pause can be a little bit cleaned up. I think with the peak, it should be there. But yeah, I'm really happy with how prep is going. And so just excited for the meet. And my bench taper is more like I'm not going to do a lot of volume off of it. I'm going to mostly train bench normally until like my last session right before I'm going to pretty harsh taper. So that's typically how I find bench peaks the most predictably. All right, guys. So I know you guys just saw like my training recap for this peak, but I want to give you guys like an idea of like my temp selection strategy and how I sort of approach competition day. So how I basically approach meet day is obviously you know want to do my absolute best. That's what mostly matters, but I am more focused on incremental improvements. So, like for example, like my goal at every single meet is like around like a 20 kilo, meet PR that I do. So around 44 pounds upwards. Anything above that is just extra. And obviously, I care about incremental improvements to my strength. Now, I can basically go off of how I'm feeling going into the meet, and what you have to really do is basically go off of how was that block going into the competition, feeling how strong are you on all three lifts, that's going to dictate how that is going to go. Papers do help a little bit, but they are not magical. They just really help express what you can hit. Most of the time, I see a 2 to 4% peak, but I don't like assuming a peak because I want things to be comfortable. I want to basically have more of a guaranteed total. Barring anything catastrophic happens, but having like a contingency plan. So really how I basically go off of my attempts is I go off of really similar jumps to what I would do in training, and then I go a little bit more off of what I know is pretty reasonable. So, like for example, my openers, I want that to be really, really easy. I want to be just getting on the board. Shouldn't feel hard at all. Actually, open a little bit higher on that on the bench press. Um, but I want to like explain the difference between like attempt selections and jumps. Like basically, I want my first attempt to basically be just get on the board, get in the meet, and then my second attempt is more like the actual strength gauge. And based off of how my lifts go, I know how heavy I need to go on things. Like for me on squat, confidence is a big thing, and because I do more of a high bar squat, that extensor strength, my upper mid back is going to be my limiter. So I need to grab something relatively heavy on this second attempt. So 540 is about a good one. It's also going to set me up for feeling more confident with actually gauging like 556, which I'm most likely not going to go above because that'll be a 10 kilo meet PR anyways. With bench press, I tend to need to take smaller jumps because how my range of motion is, I have to go off of how sticky that my mid range is. And really, when we're judging any sort of lift and saying how much do we have left in the tank, we have to go off our sticking point because you can't go off the rest of the lift. You have to go off like where the sticking point is. And for me, I have a really hard sticking point through mid range. And so I need to basically have a lift that's heavy enough on my second to be able to gauge, okay, am I good enough for that, top end of the range or whatever. And so I like taking a little bit smaller jumps on bench press in general for everybody. Also tends to be less fatiguing than squat, bench, or deadlift, like in between them. In terms of just like recovering from a muscular and a nervous system standpoint. I can pretty much come back from like 97% ish squat and have a pretty strong third attempt. Um, Raz, seeing like a bench press like in your max one. Raz on deadlift, like I pretty much need to save everything for that third attempt. That's how deadlift tends to be. And so really hitting around like what I hit in training going into the meets is what I like to do on my second attempt. So like if you look at my overall like training, like it just went over. I basically went up to like second attempt on squat and deadlift, and then I did around the third attempt on bench press because I found that bench press tends to respond a little bit better to higher intensity the more often you can keep it in. And like I said, also in the voiceover, I'm doing a lot of auto regulation going into the meet with my training setup on my bench press because I know how to train. I'm coaching is high level auto regulation. I don't need my coach to necessarily make changes or okay changes. Like I kind of know what to do intuitively based on how I'm feeling. He just okay certain things that I feel. That's core of like our relationship. But this is really like the overall plan, though, what I'm going to plan on doing. But again, the whole goal of every meet is just do my absolute best. And, what I'm most proud of is going into every single meet. Is like I did everything I possibly could, track everything I could, going into this meet. And so I'm really excited about what I'm going to do. So I'll show you guys, how things are going to go on the meet. And the next video will be my meet recap. And hopefully it's around this. But regardless, as long as I did my best, I'll be pretty happy.